This is BBC News. These are the latest headlines in the UK and around the world. Moscow claims more than 1 million people have been evacuated from Ukraine to Russia since the start of the conflict. Ukraine accuses Russia of stealing several 100,000 tons of grain from territory its forces occupy. The Kremlin has denied any knowledge of the alleged theft.
I'm Ben Brown, live in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. I'll have the latest on the heavy fighting in the Eastern Front in Donbass.
Police officers searching for 33-year-old Katie Kenyon, who went missing a week ago, have found the body of a woman. Emergency workers are still counting the casualties after a deadly suicide attack during Friday prayers in Kabul. A British MP accused of watching pornography in Parliament rejects calls to resign, saying he will stand down if an inquiry finds him guilty. Hello, you're watching BBC News with me, Joanna Gosling, in the studio, and Ben Brown in Ukraine. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says more than 1 million people have been evacuated from Ukraine to Russia since the invasion began. Ukraine has previously accused Russia of taking people across the border against their will. Ukraine has also accused Russia of stealing hundreds of thousands of tons of Ukrainian grain. According to the Agricultural Ministry, 1.5 million tons of grain is stored in Russian-occupied territory. Well, we can go live now to Ben in Kyiv. Over to you.
Yeah, Joanna, thank you very much indeed. Well, hundreds of miles to the east of here, in the trenches and the bunkers of Donbass on Ukraine's eastern front, Ukrainian troops are now facing a relentless Russian onslaught of artillery, mortars and bombing from the air. Ukraine admits it is suffering heavy casualties at the moment. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has claimed that Russia is trying to destroy, as he said, all life in the region and to make it uninhabited. Even so, the latest American assessment is that the Russian advance there in the east is moving quite slowly. It's days behind schedule, they say. And intelligence from the Ministry of Defence in London says Russia's been forced to merge and redeploy depleted and disparate units from failed advances elsewhere, many of them suffering from weakened morale. Well, meanwhile, as you mentioned, Moscow is claiming more than 1 million people have now been evacuated from Ukraine to Russia. Ukraine, though, claims that many of its citizens have been forcibly deported against their will to Russia. And meanwhile, the mother of a British humanitarian volunteer who's thought to have been captured by Russian forces in Ukraine has pleaded for him to be released as soon as possible, as our correspondent Tim Muffet now reports.